Thank you for joining me on this session, which I am hoping is going to be incredibly useful for you. Breathing to thrive and looking at how we can tap into that power of breath for our own well-being, in our parenting, and hopefully getting some of that to rub off on our kids. And actually, this has been a slight change to what I was planning to do on this session, because yesterday my son, who is 18, finished his last A-level. And the journey of education has been quite a challenging one, I have to say. So when his exam finished and he rang, and he was really, really excited. Yay, this is the end. I'm now an adult. I've got freedom. And I took a huge, big, deep breath, because I was thinking, thank gosh, we've actually made that. I've been working in positive psychology for nearly 2 decades now. And you would like to use some of these techniques on your children, but not when they are completely defiant against anything you do. So I recalled when he got off the phone, I was asking him, how was the sociology exam? And he goes, it was a bit more difficult, but it's okay. I took some rest breaks and I just was breathing before answering the questions and I managed to get through. And I was like, okay, didn't talk any more about it. Put down the phone and goes, yes, he's breathing. And these little things that they pick up from us as parents that we really don't think is actually going in, but it is. So all I'm saying is just keep on persevering, keep connecting with these kids, no matter how energetic or spirited they might be. When I was looking back at some photos to include today, I was getting a slight wave of anxiety in me. And I was trying to question why that was, because there's such kind of fun and cute little pictures. But I remember all the stories behind them, the times when you're constantly on edge, constantly waiting for something to happen. In this case, thinking that they're going to hit somebody with a golf club. And all of these things make you lose perspective and sense of the journey you're on. And sometimes it's not fun. But I'm hoping the techniques today, looking at breathing, may give you some tools to be able to use to breathe in those moments that you might not find very happy or pleasant or less stressful, to be able to see what's actually happening around us and enjoy those little moments. As Oprah says, take a deep breath and let it go. So today we are going to look at breathing, the science behind breathing. I'm going to share some interesting facts about breathing. I'm going to challenge you to rethink how you breathe. And then we're going to put some practices into motion. And I'm going to share 3 or 4 different techniques that you can try. Just some background. If you look at a little baby in their prams or lying down, you will see that their bellies rise and fall with every breath. And they're deeply breathing into their bellies, maximizing that oxygen intake. But as we grow up, we develop shallow breathing patterns, primarily into the chest area, and it can contribute to increased stress and tension. So by the time we're an adult, we have learned a lot of bad breathing habits. And looking at the science of the breath, breathing has a mind-body connection. That means for every breath we take, it can affect our brain and can affect our body. It can also affect our emotions. So you can simulate different emotions by different breathing patterns. And the role of the autonomic nervous system has 2 primary aims, and that is to manage the fight and flight response or the rest and digest response. And these responses are automatic. So if you're feeling anxious, you may have that fight, flight, freeze response, wanting to run away from a situation or argue out of it. Whereas the rest and digest is lowering your heart rate, calming you down, as opposed to fight or flight is raising your heartbeat and moving the blood from your brain into your body so you can run. It's automatic, but it can be controlled. And I'm going to share some of those controlling techniques today, because the benefits of deep controlled breathing can lower your blood pressure, improve your focus, reduce anxiety, and it is also linked to the vagus nerve, which is one of the biggest nerves that runs all the way through our body. And there's a key link there between breathing, mind and body connection, and being able to manipulate how you're thinking, feeling, and behaving. So I'm just going to share some interesting facts. The first is that breathing is the only autonomic function within our body that can actually be controlled. Functions like the heart rate and the digestion are regulated automatically. We can't control those, but we do have the ability to intentionally modify our breathing patterns. The average person takes around 20,000 breaths per day, and that means we breathe approximately 12 to 16 times per minute without even being aware of it. And going back to this vagus nerve, controlled breathing can positively influence the vagus nerve, which is a key component of the parasympathetic nervous system. And by stimulating the vagus nerve through deep breathing, we can then promote relaxation, lower heart rate, and reduce our stress levels. And there's loads of different breathing techniques we can do. And these different breathing techniques can have specific effects on the mind and the body. For example, there is alternate nostril breathing, and it's often practiced in yoga. And it's believed to balance the right and left hemispheres of the brain, which is promoting clarity and focus. So that's what we're going to do now. Breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness, and this unifies our body to our thoughts. And if you've attended previous sessions, you may have heard me talk about our thoughts, feelings, and behaving cycle, suggesting that every thought that we have is linked to an emotion or a feeling, which is linked to a behavior. And that cycle can go in any way. So this can sometimes happen if somebody asks you something and you shout back at them, you're like, I really mean shout, because your thinking and feeling patterns at that time were automatic and they were without your control in somewhat. So we want to try and get that control back. So I'm going to invite you, you've all got your cameras on, which is great, going to invite you to take a big, deep breath. So all together, just huge, big, deep breath. Okay, if you can just put in the chat, when you were breathing, did you breathe through your nose or your mouth? And if you could identify what kind of part of your body moved, that would be amazing. Great, nose. Mouth, stomach moved, rib cage and stomach. Great. Okay. Just want you to kind of remember that for the moment. I want you now to get your hand and pop it in front of your face, quite close, and just start breathing and just watch what happens to your breath. Would anybody like to share what they're thinking, feeling? You can turn on your mics if you want. Slow down. If nothing's happening, that's equally fine. So when we have our hand up to our face quite closely, it is giving our brain the sense that we're in a very closed space. And that will affect your breathing. So if you are in a very closed space, the body will automatically slow down your breath, reduce the amount of oxygen it takes in to preserve the amount of oxygen within that space. This is an exercise that actually comes from vocal training, because if our world is quite small, and what I mean by quite small is if we are living in our heads a lot, so this is our world here, all our troubles, all of our problems, the only thing that we're actually seeing here, we can't seem to see beyond that because the life in front of us is very real at the moment. It can reduce our capacity to breathe deeply, and it can also reduce our communication. So we're not communicating as effectively because we're in this little space, and our vocal range is also reduced. So it's an exercise often done within presenting, because if we're living in this small space, our breath and our voice is going to be small. But if we're breathing out and talking to the larger space, our breath gets larger, bigger, deeper, and our voice gets louder. So how do you breathe? Now, I know that Vanessa mentioned about breathing in, your shoulders and your tummy moved up. For the rest of these exercises, I would like you to try and breathe through your nose. And I don't know if you've ever read the book by James Nestor, Breath, and he suggests from research that we can gain almost 20% more oxygen by breathing through the nose. And that can affect, obviously, our day-to-day, but also affect our sleep. And he even suggests taping the mouth, so you're solely breathing through, I would do research before you do that, but breathing through your nose, encouraging that at nighttime to give you a better sleep. But for the purpose of these exercises, let's try and breathe through our nose. And also consider breathing deep down into your tummy. And if you're breathing deep into your tummy, you're making sure that breath is going very, very deep. And it's called diaphragmatic breathing. And that's moving back into the baby breath as opposed to our adult breath, which can be stuck up in our chest. If you imagine a balloon, you've got a balloon inside, and as you breathe in, that balloon is expanding. And how it expands deep down into the tummy. It moves your back, your ribs, your diaphragm. That's kind of what we're aiming for. So if you need something visual to think about when you're breathing in, you can breathe into a balloon and then visualize it contract. We're going to start with a 3-minute breathing space exercise. And this is almost like a small meditation, but this will be really, really helpful for you on your day-to-day. So if you want to turn off your cameras, you can, and just get yourself into a seated position. And if you can sit up nice and straight and just be aware of letting your body be very present and awake and in the moment. If you're happy to close your eyes, if that's comfortable for you, or just lower your gaze. And the first step is to become really, really aware of what is going on with you right now. Becoming aware of what is going through your mind, what thoughts are around. Here, again, as best as you can, just notice the thoughts as mental events, as clouds passing by, and just note them, and then note the feelings that are around at this moment. How are you feeling right now? Are there uncomfortable or unpleasant feelings? If so, rather than trying to push them away or shutting them out, just acknowledge them and perhaps saying, there you are. That's how it is right now. It's okay. You're allowed to be here. And similarly with any sensations in the body, if there's sensations of tension, of holding, any of those sensations. And again, awareness of them, simply noting them. Okay, that's how it is right now. So now you've got a sense of what's going on. You've now stepped out of automatic pilot. So the second step is to collect your awareness by focusing on a single object. And that single object for this exercise is going to be the movements of the breath. So now you really gather yourself, focusing attention down in the movements of the abdomen. Remember, we're breathing in, and as we're breathing in into that balloon, our stomach, our tummy is expanding, and then we're releasing that breath. So thinking about the rise and the fall of your breath, spending a minute or two to focus on the movement, moment by moment, breath by breath. So that you know when the breath is moving in and you know when the breath is moving out, just binding your awareness to the pattern of movement, gathering yourself, using the anchor of the breath to be really present in this moment. So breathing in, focusing on that breath, entering your body, what's happening to your body, where is that breath landing, and releasing that breath. And now, as a third step, having gathered yourself to some extent, you allow your awareness to expand. As well as being aware of the breath, you also include a sense of your body as a whole. So that you get this more spacious awareness, a sense of the body as a whole. And that may include tightness or sensations related to holding in the shoulders, neck, back, or face. Following the breath as if your whole body is breathing. Holding it all in this slightly softer, more spacious awareness. And now when you are ready, just open your eyes. And if you can turn your cameras on when you're ready, then I know you're back. So that's just a 3-minute breathing space, just to bring you some awareness to your breath and what's happening with your breath and your body generally, because sometimes we don't have that awareness of our whole self, and it's just bringing that awareness back to ourselves. So the next breathing technique is the box breathing or square breathing technique. And the premise for this is that when you hold your breath, CO2 levels in your blood increase, which then lowers your heart rate and activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which then results in a calm and a relaxing effect. Or to put it another way, just breathing in slowly and releasing the stress. This technique, box breathing, is used by the Navy SEALs in action. It's one of their techniques that they use in combat. So it's actually a really reliable exercise, and it's so simple to use, and it's super easy to use for kids. So I'm going to do it now, and you don't have to close your eyes or sit up straight for this one. For this one, we're going to slowly inhale for 4. We're going to hold our breath for 4 counts. We're going to release the breath for 4 counts, let it out slowly, and we're going to hold the breath for 4 counts. So again, remembering to breathe through your nose. You can breathe out either through your mouth or your nose. Let's try that now. So we're going to do this for 3 counts. So inhaling for 4, 2, 3, 4, holding for 2, 3, 4, breathing out, 2, 3, 4, and holding, 2, 3, 4. Again, 2, 3, 4, holding, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. It's a really simple breathing technique to relax and calm the body. You can do this for 1 to 3 minutes. Really effective for anxiety, for stress, for pressure, if you just want to recharge. Again, if you've watched previous series, you would have heard that there's a 90-second rule within our body, that when we release the stress hormone, when we come under pressure or anxiety, we release a stress hormone which increases our breath and increases our adrenaline and cortisol. And by engaging in this breathing technique for just 90 seconds and trying not to engage in any negative thinking patterns during that time, because we're focusing just solely on the breath, it will reduce that cortisol and adrenaline levels, and you can come back to a period where you're able to think more rationally and engage in a more present way. And then the final exercise is alternate nostril breathing. And this can be really effective, not only to relax your body and mind, but it reduces anxiety, it promotes overall well-being. And these benefits in turn may help you become more focused and more aware. So for this one, again, if you can be sitting down, if you're not already, and trying to sit in a very comfortable position, putting both of your palms down flat on your knees, and then lift up your right hand. Exhale completely, and then using your right thumb, close the right nostril. Inhale through the left nostril, then close the left nostril with your fingers. Open the right nostril and exhale through this side. Then inhaling through the right nostril and then closing this nostril. Opening the left nostril, exhaling through the left side. And this is one cycle. If you don't have your camera on or can't see this, if you're listening to the recording, I will put a link in the comments below to a video which shows this breathing technique, so you're very clear on what that looks like. So this is alternate nostril breathing. So just to finish up, breathing in, you can calm your body. When you breathe out, if you smile and dwell on the present moment, you can start connecting with those wonderful moments. And this is a lovely quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. I'd like to just leave it there and suggest that every day you make at least 3 minutes to breathe and just become more conscious of your breathing. If you have any traits or symptoms of anxiety, concentrating on your breath may feel a little bit more uncomfortable. So if you can just try and work through that discomfort, making sure you're sitting down, because if you are breathing very shallowly, you may find you get a bit lightheaded if you're starting to breathe deeply. And just taking care of yourself, reconnecting with the breath, re-engaging with this as a tool, and see what happens. Try and incorporate that into your day-to-day, but particularly at least 3 minutes of the day, or when you're feeling any anxious thoughts or symptoms, again, lean into the breath, because it's an incredibly effective and very simple tool to use. I'm going to open it up to questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to turn on your microphones and ask. I'm going to stop the share now.